Science tells us that human civilization began in a place called Mesopotamia, between two rivers called the Tigris and the Euphrates. Every year, water from the mountains up in the northwest flows down these rivers and floods the land nearby. This fertilizes the land, so for thousands of years, people have farmed this land and lived here. But what would happen if there was a very large storm up in the mountain? Well, in that case, the flooding would cover a much larger area. Now, keep in mind that thousands of years ago, the entire known world was the territory between these two rivers. So if the area flooded, it would have seemed to the people who lived there that the whole world had been drowned. Now, the story of Noah from the book of Genesis is just such an account. And there are many other stories, some of them quite similar to the story of Noah, in the folklore of other people who lived in this area at about this same time. For example, the Epic of Gilgamesh is another book that was written at about the same time as the book of Genesis. Gilgamesh tells the story of a god named Ea who told a man called Utnapishtim to build a huge boat. Ea told Utnapishtim that a flood was coming that would destroy the entire world. The boat was intended to save Utnapishtim himself, as well as his family and friends and animals. And as you can see, this has a lot of characteristics in common with the Noah story. Here's another example. In Indian mythology, the Matsya avatar of Vishnu warns the first man, whose name is Manu, of an impending flood and tells him to build a giant boat. And there are many other examples. Greek mythology tells of 3 great floods, and Chinese literature tells of a flood event that lasted for 2 generations. The fact that so many different cultures have stories of a great flood suggests that all of them are rooted in some actual event that happened at some point in the distant past. Perhaps there was a great flood that covered enough area to make it seem like all the earth had been covered in water. For example, in 1997, 2 scientists named William Ryan and Walter Pittman published evidence of a massive flood that happened sometime around the year 5600 BCE, when the failure of a natural earthen dam spilled water from the Mediterranean Sea into the Black Sea, inundating 60,000 square miles of surrounding area. But does that mean that there really was a man named Noah who packed all of those animals into a giant boat? Well, this is a full-size replica of the Ark that was built as a tourist attraction in Hong Kong. It's based on the dimensions that Noah is given by God in the story in the book of Genesis. Now, it's very unlikely that one man could build such a thing by himself, especially if all he had to work with was hand tools. But just as we've seen with the other Bible stories that we've studied, the actual historical details of the Noah story are not the point. It was intended to teach a lesson about good and evil. So, what do you think the lesson of the Noah story might be?